Greetings and welcome to episode 3 of Lesbian Training for Men. The name of our tip today is Prove It. When I was a kid, I really loved to play basketball with the boys in my class. And one of the highlights of playing basketball with them was when we went to Camp Casey, which was an old military base turned into a recreational spot for most people to come to, including classes and schools and different organizations that wanted to stay there and look at the ocean and explore Whidbey Island, or at least that piece of it. And usually when kids would go to camp there would be several schools, like say 3 or 4 schools, that would have 1 or 2 grades that would be there at the same time. And so this was my chance to actually not only show off my shot making skills, but to actually do it with a whole new set of boys. And I say boys because I really was the only girl that was playing with the boys on the court. This was not an unusual thing for me, as I really did love to play different things with the boys because it seemed as though they weren't scared to really go for it. There was a particular game that we would play called horse. And horse, I'm sure that most people are aware, is when you throw the ball into the net and the next player has to make the exact same shot from where you stood and in the way that you shot. And if you didn't make it, then you were assigned a letter until you spelled horse, and then you were out of the game. And like most games, if there were only a couple of people playing, then the game would go faster. But the more people involved and the more nuances there were, the more challenging it would become. And I would say there was more of a propensity to show off just a little bit more, given the size of the audience. However, there was one caveat that always seemed to follow no matter what school or what class or what grade. And that was the caveat of something called Prove It. This was kind of, as I look back, it seems to me a sort of gentlemanly way of allowing the loser, the one who had finally spelled horse first, to actually perhaps regain one more chance in the game. And so what would happen is the shot that was missed was actually reassigned to the original shooter. So the one before who'd made the shot and made it in the basket, thus setting it up for the next player to have to make that same shot. If that player had failed to do so, if he was at the end of his word, horse, he could say, prove it. And the original shooter would have to walk up and make the shot again, thus confirming the ability to do it and also solidifying the verdict of loss for the player who had failed to actually follow through on that shot and their removal from the game. I might have liked this particular game because it really didn't involve a bunch of running, shoving, sweating, and grunting. It really was a matter of, I'm going to do this one thing from this place and you're going to watch me do it, and it's going to sing like a song you've never heard. Simultaneously occurring during this time was my aversion for running, jumping, sweating, and grunting. And so my mother would write notes for me to actually be excluded from PE. Her reasons probably very different than mine, but nonetheless, the result was the same. And I achieved in more than one grade the ability to be exempt from such grunting and sweating. Now, I don't say this as a point of pride necessarily, because the natural aversion that I've had for exercise is not necessarily a very good thing. However, there were things that were very problematic. And while everyone was treated as though they had the same abilities in PE, this couldn't be farther from the truth. I think one of the things that was missing predominantly was that I didn't enjoy what was happening. There were some things that I felt were very unsafe, but suffice it to say that even if I didn't think they were safe and enjoyed them, I might have done them anyway. And this brings me to what the Bible talks about in proving me now. I feel like this is such an important part of where we are coming to and where we are coming from, because if nothing else has been proven to us, in our lives. It's that we really will, most of the time, try to avoid the things that we really don't want to do, unless they bring us to the things that we really do want to do. And when I think of the scripture of prove me now, I also think of the fact that this isn't conjecture. This isn't some kind of theory. This is proof of our acceptance of our worthiness to have that which we find to be fulfilling. And after many conversations recently with people wherein it's discovered that perhaps there isn't so much of the having to eat your vegetables, so to speak, in order to enjoy the main course of hamburger that's on your plate, I think we're finding that when we engage in that which is truly calibrated to our joy and the things that we actually find rewarding and fulfilling, that while there might be parts of it that aren't so enjoyable, we can actually look for the proof of what does coincide with our natural joy and curiosity. And it seems as though the raising of our spirits so that the hike, which I would never take, doesn't seem endless, and that we will reach the summit to look at all the valleys around us that we traveled through to achieve this sight. There may, in fact, be a lot of emphasis put on why we should enjoy the travails of the ascent. But I think all of that is kind of like training wheels to get you to accept the responsibility of the ascent, so that the real focus is what each part of the ascent reflects of that which we know we will see and more when we reach the top. So today, my tip is this: in an effort to reach that which we actually really do enjoy and love to do, not only do we not need excuses or data or other people's opinion, as I just recently heard someone say, in my humble opinion, perfection is an opinion. And so when others are working to perfect the way we should live and what we should get from it, it might behoove all of us to remember that we are not here to prove them right, but to actually be the proof that it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom.